infinite, that we must reach. Into the infinite, that we must reach.
What's up, guys? It's You Party Talks Anime, and what, our fourth installment?
I don't know.
You thought it was fourth
I
last
tried to
time?
forget.
And boy, oh boy,
I think
we
it's our
got...
third.
No. Unless you want to forget about our last one.
I'm trying.
I am excited about this one because we were supposed to do this one how long ago?
6 months.
We had planned to do this one for a while, but Dan kept dropping the ball and he wasn't finishing.
Yeah, I dropped the ball. I wasn't scrambling today.
To be fair, Dan finished it in a timely fashion, and I just did not get around to finishing it. Although it was my second time seeing it, but I did need a recap on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a fucking recap now without the jackass.
But for this one, we'll be talking about When They Cry. Or if you want the Japanese version of it, Higuragashi no Nakukoro ni.
Just edit that out of there.
I botched that. I can barely pronounce Japanese names. So getting the Japanese translation of that, I don't even know what I'm pointing to. Getting the Japanese translation of that one is, by the way, you like the extra bug effect we have going on?
You mean the swamp?
Yeah, we're in the Omafaguchi swamp.
I might be dead after this power
botching
hour.
it one more after the next. But yeah, I'm excited. We're very excited about this one because I feel like this is a very, very under... Oh, we gotta go.
No.
Jesus Christ. Is that Oyamashira? I'll just keep botching it. Just keep going.
Make up a different name every time.
I could do it. But I'm excited about this one because I feel like this is one of those ones that really sails under the radar. I've never heard anybody... The only time I've ever seen this get referenced, I was at I went to a gaming tournament, and I happened to see someone with a shirt on that had the anime on it. And I was like, holy fuck, where did that guy even get that?
He made it himself.
He might have, because the fact that anyone else even knew about it. Dan didn't even know about it. It originally started off because I randomly... you know how I came across this?
Yeah.
I came across this in a random... It was like one of those cheesy ass... It was like top 10 lists that like no one ever watches. And it was like, oh, most brutal scenes in anime. 9 out of 10 of them you've seen already. It's like from Attack on Titan or something.
Like the big...
And then this one was a scene of this like teenage girl stabbing the shit out of a little kid, and I was like, yo, what the fuck is this? And this is like years ago, because this anime came out like 2007, I think. 2006. So this is like older. This is like older as fuck. And then I went and I looked it up and I found it. I was like, I gotta watch this, and there were way more fucking episodes, and I started watching it, and then it was just so fucking good. And when we started doing these podcasts or whatever, because like we usually say, we like to do more underrated ones, like try to get people to watch the ones that people don't know about. When me and Dan were deciding, I was like, Dan, you gotta watch it.
You told me that, and you're like, oh, when they cry. I'm like, dude, I'm not watching any romance anime. I'm like, you're not getting me to watch it. I'm like, I don't want to watch it. I'm not excited for it. So I'm like, oh, I'll just buckle down, watch this stupid romance anime. Because Mike told me nothing about it. He's like, just watch it. I'm not telling you anything. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Play the first 10 seconds, and it's someone brutally dying. I'm like, I'm like, this isn't what I think it is.
Yeah, don't be confused by the title. Well, not the Japanese one, because you're not getting shit from that. But yeah, When They Cry, it's if you're going just by that, it's because it's a take on cicadas. No, not that.
Babies.
It's basically when cicadas cry in the fucking forest, because it's in some fucking backwoods ass village that...
How would you describe it? I don't even know what kind of like genre it is, like thriller, suspense?
Yeah, when I went back and watched it, I was so I watched it originally like years ago, but then when we were deciding on what one to pick, I was like, oh, this will be a great one to talk about. I could sit down, I could rewatch it. And as I was rewatching, I was like, oh yeah, I would consider this like a horror.
Okay.
But like going back and watching it, I wouldn't really consider it. It's like horror, psychological thriller. There's
touches-
comedic points in
Yeah,
there.
it
There's a
touches-
lot of comedic
Dude,
points in
even
there.
there's some episodes where like nothing happens and it's just like a daily like slice of life like episode.
They go to the school, your favorite place to go to.
I love the school.
See, you brought that up before, and I would like to get back in that later, but, like, where the fuck else do you want them to go? There's only, like, 4 different
They
places.
go to the gaming mart a couple times.
Yeah, like I said, there's only, like, 4 different fucking places for them to go. The school is, like,
The
where...
school, the dump.
No, the
A
dump.
lot of shit happens at the dump.
It's
Nothing
not-
good happens at the dump.
It's the damn construction site. Yeah, the damn
Yeah,
construction
it's
site.
a dump, all right.
So,
Their houses. That's like the 4 plot points.
and the Sonozaki household.
The shrine. They go to the shrine.
They do go to the Furudu shrine.
the cotton drifting fest. Is that what's called? Cotton?
The Watashanagi Festival.
Oof.
The cotton drifting
I
festival.
think I felt that cut.
Before we even get into what it is, I like to do this whenever we do the podcast. I like to
What
talk.
would you rate it?
I'm gonna say this hands down. Just if you're tuning in just for a second and you're just like, I need a quick answer, watch the fucking thing.
Into the internet that we must read.
It's good.
Buckle down and watch it. You're not getting any. There will be. I do have some negative gripes on this one. When we did the Redline podcast, I had nothing bad to say about that one. Space Dan didn't really have anything to say about that one either. I was kind of pulling on straws on that one. The fucking. What was our second one? What was the second one that we did? It was so.
Juni Tensu,
Yeah.
Zodiac Wars.
I had nothing good to say about that one, but this one I have I think I would have after especially seeing it twice, I think I have a good amount of good and bad. But what I like to do is whenever we start off watching these podcasts, I would like to say how we watched it. See, when I first watched it back in 2011, I think I watched this. When I first looked it up, I was like, oh, let me see if it's on anything. It's not on Crunchyroll. It's definitely not on Netflix. And I was like, oh, fuck, it's on Hulu. Because that's when I was on my Hulu binge. Hulu usually has some good shit over there. As far as anime goes, I like to go over there. Netflix has been on their game, but that's beside the point. Maybe that's there you go. That's a topic for a different time. So I see it on Hulu, and I'm like, I think it was 26 episodes, I want to say. It's either 24 or 26. I was like, perfect, bang this out. So I watched the first 24, 26 episodes, and it ended, and I was like, whoa, no fucking way is that the end of that. So then when I looked it up, I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, that's the thing. You said watch the anime, and I did the same thing. I finished it on Hulu,
yeah.
and I texted you, I'm like, dude, what was that ending? And you're like, well,
See, like I said, it had been years since I watched it, so I'm like, oh, it's all on there.
yeah, I'm like, dude, I don't think that's on there. I'm like, there was a bunch of shit at the end. He's like, yeah, dude, you didn't finish it. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like,
Oh, because I kept asking you about the intros. I'm like, did the intro...
yeah, dude, I mentioned that. I'm like, dude, I remember seeing different intros. I'm like, it didn't change at all. I'm
Yeah,
like,
there's
it was the same one.
There's 4 different intros, and the first season is just the same intro all the way through. I was like, oh yeah, that's not the end of that.
Yeah, I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, dude, I don't know. We'll look up the episodes on Wikipedia. I'm like, okay. So I'm looking, I'm like, oh, I don't know any of this stuff that happens. I'm like, this is all new to me. And then come to find out, there's a second season, there's a third season, there's 5 OVAs.
There's a lot of different...
There's 4 video games.
There's a lot of different shit to this show. I guess it was huge when it was coming out. Go figure, because, like I said, I've never heard anyone talk about it or whatever. The only thing I have ever actually seen of it was, like I said, I was in a shitty top 10 YouTube video that I don't even think I could find now, and it was some random one where they put a scene of it, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And I think one of the other scenes I saw in there was, Corpse Party was another one, which is another one I would like to talk about in the future. But regardless of that, there's the 2 seasons, which have 24 to 26 episodes each. That's the main series. There's 2 4-part OVAs, which are totally separate from each other. There's I don't know how long the first there's a first OVA in between the first and second season that has nothing to do with anything, and then there's a solid full-length OVA movie which is the last thing that came out. As far as anime goes, which I didn't see the movie. Dan saw the movie. We'll talk about that.
We're only going to be talking about the main.
Yeah, we're only going to talk about the main series,
storyline.
and then Dan could weigh in on the movie at the end there, because I do want to see that. I haven't seen it yet. But then there's manga out of it, which I think the manga does just cover the main storyline.
I went to a bookstore in New York, and it was a huge manga bookstore, and I'm going through, and I'm looking at like all the different shelves, whatever. I'm just looking at browsing, and I come across this one shelf, and it's literally the entirety of the shelf is like these black books, and I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm like, this goes on for fucking ever. It takes up like 2 shelves. And like I pull one out and I see the red-haired chick from the manga or from the anime. I'm like, oh my god, this is when they cry. It didn't have, for some reason it didn't have it had the Japanese text and in really small letters underneath. It has the English text. I'm like, oh, I have to buy this.
They really want to keep it. Apparently they don't want anyone to know about this. I guess you get the curse from it.
I'll take it at that point.
And then there's the games too. Maybe one day we'll stream the games because I'm kind of interested. And plus, like, if we're doing a whole podcast on it, it'd be pretty cool.
I'm sure they're just like visual novels.
I think they might just be visual novels, yeah. But so yeah, you watch the first. If you're looking for the first season, if you're interested enough, you watch the first season. It's on Hulu. So if you have that, if you're not, you can fucking go on Kiss Anime. Thank you, gods. I'm so happy I got to go back to Kiss Anime. Oh, and they're all on there.
Also,
lo and behold, I don't know when anything wasn't on Kiss Anime. So
I noticed this. Hulu did not censor it.
Yeah, they
did.
It
is uncensored on Hulu.
It is uncensored. It really is.
I was pleasantly surprised.
In case you're wondering, it is pretty gory and bloody.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people dying.
A lot of people. And
a lot of the same people dying.
No one just dies. People, like, really fucking die in this.
Like torture. Like, you see people getting tortured. I just spit everywhere. You see people getting tortured. It's awesome.
But I would like to say for this time, the last time, well, I always bitch about Kiss Anime because I fucking hate Kiss Anime. But I will have to say it pulled through this time. I don't know if I went...
You only get a little bit of viruses?
I don't know if I went on the actual right site this time.
Damn.
But I went on there. I had no... I think I can safely say I had no pop-ups. I had no, it cut away or anything.
You're just lying.
The only thing was I would go to play it off the player and it'd be like, oh, error, and it would just go to the other one. I'll tell you what, though. The ads around it, though, were... extremely right this time.
Top mobs in your area.
Oh, it was R++. It was in your face. It was like, let's fuck these girls tonight. Get in this game. Then there was an Azur Lane ad. I see that quite a bit. But that's like just a normal, like, ecchi game that I think is actually pretty popular.
If any of those games want to sponsor us, we'll go to Kiss Anime more.
We're looking now. Check your horoscope. Sexy single ladies in your area.
Alright, I'll pull up Kiss Anime.
Yeah. So I will have to say it was pretty tame this time around as far as getting through the episodes when I didn't really have...
hit or miss, you know?
Apparently. Space Dandy really gave me problems, but go figure when they cried didn't.
So, you want to actually get into the anime?
Oh, Jesus.
This arduous task?
Get into the anime. So let's say... If you've seen it before, you already know what the hell you're getting yourself into.
The storyline is all over the place.
It is literally...
The way they tell it is all over the place. And it's hard to try to explain it to somebody who hasn't seen it.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's hard to explain. And I would like to explain it without spoilers. I think
good luck.
I think it's doable.
We're gonna be dancing around.
I think it's doable. So when we first started, like when we were talking about doing this, I told Dan, I was like, to cover 2 seasons, that's a lot. Maybe we should do like a 2-parter. And then like we talked about it. There's
a lot that happens, and I guaranteed you, we are most likely going to get the timeline fucked up somehow.
Oh, it's.
But the thing is that that's how they give you the story.
You can't talk about it in parts without talking about both seasons because the whole and the anime story, like the storyline as a whole, is literally just broken up parts throughout the 2 seasons. But I think we could do it in a way where we talk about the first season and then the second season without avoiding spoilers.
With avoiding
spoilers. With avoiding spoilers. But then I would like to talk about it with spoilers because
well, obviously you'll put up the spoiler warning. The explosions.
Even if when we do get into talking about the spoilers, if you watch this with us talking about the spoilers later on, I still think it would be intriguing and confusing enough.
Oh, absolutely.
Still to the point where you're like,
We've seen it and we're still confused.
I've seen it twice, and I'm like, Dan just saw it. I saw it twice, and I'm like, what the fuck? Again? It is that confusing. It really is that confusing.
But that doesn't make it a bad thing.
No, it's a good thing. And it makes it's good too because it's one of those ones where like it's worth binging. Like there's animes where you could be like, I'll watch that later. But then like this one is one where you're like, it's worth it to just binge the fuck out of.
Absolutely.
So as far as let's just cover the first 24, 26. We'll take this in parts.
Okay.
So in the first season, just to set up the premise.
Well, how about we start first episode? As soon as the episode starts.
Let's set up where it is.
Okay.
If you want an idea of what's going on, it is in a backwoods ass village.
Like this one.
Oh, there's a swamp, all right. It's in like one of those secluded villages that's like, typical Japan.
Like tight-knit community.
Yeah.
They don't like outsiders. Well, I mean, the outsiders were a big thing.
Yeah.
But
it's 1983. That's the year it is.
I'm surprised you know the exact year.
Know the exact year. You lived through it a fucking bunch of times. So it's like 1983. It's in a like tight-knit village that's like I said, mountainous.
For the longest time, they didn't allow outsiders to come in.
Yeah, they didn't allow outsiders, and the story sets up where you follow one of the main characters. His name is Keiichi. He's just a typical high school boy. He just moved to the village, so he's like a fresh face in the village. People are, I guess, excited that he's there because
they for the longest time they wouldn't allow outsiders to come in. They started they opened their gates, they let everybody come in. I don't know if he's one of the first outsiders to come into the village or something like that, but everybody's like super pumped that he's there.
I think he is one of the new outsiders.
Yeah, because everybody's like, oh, he somebody actually moved here because they had like not locals, but like people who would move through. Like
yeah, they had it. Okay, so what they had was, because this was actually in. This is in season 2, but it's not a spoiler. It was when, so like Dan said, they didn't allow people in, but one of the head leaders of the village was like, oh, we need fresh face in here. It's been too long. So she opened up plots of land for tourists to come in and check out real estate to buy. So Keiichi, the main boy, his family was one of the first people to come check it out and was like, we want to buy land here and just move in. So he moves in.
Like that's not a huge thing, but it is a little important.
It is important. The fact that he is one of the first new people to show up. Mm-hmm. So he comes in and he goes to this, like we said, it's a backwoods ass village. He goes to this like rinky-dink school in the hills, and because it's like such a small village, tight-knit, all the grades are just packed into one class. Yeah. So you have kids of all different age. And him going to school there, you meet all the main characters from there.
There's 5 of them?
We'll take it one by one. So you have Keiichi, he's the main boy. He's new to the village. Mm-hmm. You have the green-haired chick, Mion. She is the daughter and next heir to one of the 3 big families that rule the village. Then you have Reina, who we'll get into her character, but she's more Keiichi and Mion's age, and
Sion is the oldest, right?
I believe so. That's Mion's sister. We'll get to her. Let's not confuse them here. Throwing characters at them. So yeah, so there's Keiichi, Mion, one of the daughters to the next one of the big families, Reina, who you find out used to live in the village back in the day, but her family left, but then they came back. Mm-hmm. So Reina just came back. Then you have they're like 2 little girls. You have Satoko?
I'm terrible at remembering names.
Hojo's her last name. She's part of the Hojo family. That's important later. Small little blonde hair bitch. One of my least favorite characters.
She's terrible.
She is so fucking annoying. She's and I would like to like her because she's one of those little girls that has the little tooth, which I usually do like, but she's...
Put up a picture of her.
All right, here you go. Want me to? I'll put a thing up of her going.
Oh, I see it.
She does that laugh a lot. But anyway, and then you have probably one of the most important characters, but you don't find out till later, is Riku. Now, Riku's whole big thing is, like we said, there's 3 main families that are in control of this small village. There's Mion's family, which is Sonozaki. There's Riku, who's, I think her last name is Furudu. She's the lone survivor of her family, and she's considered the Shrine Maiden. That's important. And then you have, I can't even remember the third one. It's just like some old guy who's still in charge, but he's a big deal. But that's food for thought later. So you get introduced to all these characters, and they immediately become friends with each other, and everything is peachy. And the first...
Everything is peach. No, it's far from.
The whole first episode is you're finding out about these characters, and it's like they're laughing, they're becoming friends. You find out they set up like a little after-school party thing.
The club.
They become a club.
Okay, yeah, that's the first episode. Yeah, what about the first, 20 seconds of the episode?
No, that's at the end you're thinking of.
No, I'm pretty sure that's the beginning of the show. That's how it starts.
What, with Reina?
No, with the main character.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's literally beating to death 2 bodies.
Yeah, so all those characters we just named in the first... Yeah, that is the very beginning of the episode. Because the end of the episode is fucked, too. The episode starts and it shows Keiichi, the main character, and he is just...
He has a bat and he's literally just beating 2 bloody corpses.
He's wailing the shit out of 2 people. Like, they're fucking dead. So, yeah, that's the beginning of the episode, and then everything we just said ensues. And then you're like, oh, what the fuck happened with that beginning thing? Like, we were just, whatever, talking,
They completely glazed over that entire beginning.
Yeah. So then you get to the very end of the first episode. The first episode is pretty fucking important. So then, Reina, the red-haired chick, part of their club. I guess we consider the club all those characters that we just named. She's just like, hey, listen, I like to go to this dump and treasure hunt, which is really odd.
Yeah, it is a weird thing. Nobody likes that. Don't hang out with people that say that.
They go to the dump. And it's Reina and the main boy, Keiichi, and they're there, and they're like, they're treasure hunting. And then one person shows up.
Yeah.
Tomatake. This boy shows up, and he has a fucking green wife beater. Yeah, jacked, and he has a camera. And they're like, Keiichi's like, oh, who the fuck is this? And then Reina's like, oh, that's Tomatake. He likes to come once every year for this festival that happens,
he takes pictures.
He likes to take pictures. That's
about what you get from him.
Yeah,
that's it.
Well, no, because then he's like, oh yeah, something, the dam construction site. So you find out that the dump that they're in is like a canceled project from the government where they were gonna build a dam. And then Keiichi's like, oh, what happened? And you learn from the photographer boy.
No, he goes, oh, what are you guys doing here? As, the chicks in the dump, searching for treasure. And he goes, oh, we're just trying to hide a body. And he's like, oh, you already know about the murder that happened here?
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, what? And then Tomatake's like, all right, I'll see you guys later. And then he just fucking leaves.
Yeah, he bounces. And then, it ominously cuts to fucking Reina, and she has an axe in her hand. I'm almost positive she does it at least.
Yeah, I'm pretty
It's
sure.
something fucky at the end. So, that's the whole first episode. It's fucked. So from there, you're like, okay, I'm interested. I'm just trying to go through, what you're going to be feeling as you go through this.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be very confused. I was still very confused. And I just want to let you know, you get 0 answers from the first season.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
And we were saying, spoilers, the only way we can... we're going to talk about, like I said, I like to avoid spoilers. The only way we can talk about spoilers is if you talk about the second season. So, I think it'd be pretty easy to avoid that. So, instead of going episode by episode, I would just like to talk about the main plot points that happen, and then we'll go through the different arcs.
Yeah.
Because the way it's set up is arcs.
Yeah, each 5 or 6 episodes, maybe, or it might be less than that, is a different arc, technically.
Yeah, arc, which is confusing in and of itself because there are continuations of certain arcs that they count as a different arc. Like I said, it gets confusing. So after all of that you get in the first episode, there's certain plot points that you need to know that happens. Every year there's a festival. It's called the Watashagi whatever festival. And they have Rika, the little girl with the blue hair. She's the shrine maiden and she performs a ritual.
Her name's Rika, right?
Riku.
Because you said Riku before.
I know, it's Riku. It's Riku. I'm sorry. There's a lot of major characters. Like, there's a lot of shit going on in this show.
Is it Rika or Riku?
It's Riku.
I'm terrible with names, and I'll admit that. I'll take the piss on this one, but
I know for a fact it's Riku. Watch, I'll end up looking it back and impose that.
Yeah.
I know it's Riku.
You put the fucking count up here every time you say it wrong.
I'm almost positive it's Riku because her name is Riku Furudu, and it rhymes. And because she's the last of the Furudu line. So they have a festival every year. It's called the Cotton Drifting Festival.
This is the 8th?
Oof, dude, it's the 5th.
Is it the 5th?
It's the 5th. It's
I was going to say 6th, and I'm like, no, that's too low.
I'll be impressed if you could name the 2 bodies that disappear every year. Yeah, you thought there were 8 of them. I'll be impressed if I could do it. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Okay.
So there's a festival every year. It's the Cotton Drifting Festival. And Riku she's the shrine maiden and she does a little ritual. This is why Tomatake is here, by the way, because he likes to take pictures every year. That's beside the fact. Now, the legend is every year for the past 4 years, the night of the festival, something happens to 2 random people. One dies and one goes missing.
It's not every 4 years, it happens every year.
For the past 4 years. This being the 5th year.
Yeah.
That they're getting into it. One person dies and one person goes missing. They attribute this happening to a deity called Oyashira? Oyashira?
Don't look at me, because I don't fucking remember.
And they say that the one person dying and the one person going missing is basically a sacrifice to
appease the deity.
To cleanse the village of all the sins and wrongdoing.
But it's all because of the dam, right?
Yes.
The outcry, I guess you would
So
say.
this all started after the dam incident.
That damn incident.
That damn incident. So like we said, you find out in the first or second episode, there was this government project to build a dam. But if they built the dam, the government built this dam, the town would have been flooded and everyone would have lost their homes. So to compensate, use my hands a lot here, the government was like, listen, villagers, we'll give you money, you can leave. The town was split up. A lot of the villagers were like, fuck it, we're poor, we'll take the money, build the dam. And then a lot of the other villagers, mainly the 3 heads who were very wealthy and basically had rule over the village, were like, no, fuck you, government bounce. And then any of the other villagers who oppose us, you're fucking outcasts.
You see, that's another thing, though. That's a main thing. Like, that's a huge, like, plot point, is who's opposed to the dam and who is in favor of the dam.
And a lot of this damn nonsense, they just kind of breeze over and they leave it up to you. They leave it up to your own imagination. See, this is what I like. This is what I think I like a lot about the show in general and the first season in particular. They give you events and then they're like, okay, like you decide.
Yeah.
So you're never exactly sure what exactly the fuck is happening. So you could be like, oh, I think that could be it. But then like you'll hit another arc and you're like, maybe that's not it. Because like shit happens.
You don't know why. We didn't explain why there's other arcs.
Well, this is why I just wanted to get the main plot points out of the way. Because how it goes is every arc, the same couple things keep happening. And the whole point of the show is to unravel why these things are happening.
But They keep happening, but they're slightly different every
time. Yeah. But for the most part, we're just trying to get out of the way exactly what happens. So you have Keiichi always shows up in the beginning. Just to try to recap. I know we didn't hit a lot. We're talking a bit. Try to recap. Keiichi always shows up in the beginning.
It's always the same main characters. There's no
it's always the same main characters. The damn war has always happened, and the festival goes on every year.
It always takes place within like the week of the festival.
Yeah, a week or two of the festival. So they're just kind of like counting down to it. And 2 people always disappear / die at the night of every festival. On top of one person dying and one person disappearing, it's always the same people that die / disappear. And on the 5th night, it's always the same 2 people who died, actually. Same 3, I guess. No, go ahead.
They don't know who's going to die each festival. Nobody knows who's going to die. It's not like...
They consider it... The town is called Himazawa. They call it the string of mysterious murders of Himazawa. That's what they call it. They don't know who the fuck is doing this, who did it, what's going on. That's one of the big mysteries. You don't know. The show literally takes the time to suspect everybody.
Yeah.
So you're never fully fucking sure, especially in this first season.
And plus you have to explain why it resets every time.
Why what resets every time?
Why it's the same time period every time. Why it keeps going back to the same time period.
It doesn't always go back to the same time period, though.
But
you're getting into spoiler territory here, Dan.
I mean, you have to at this point because
let's just cover this first season.
After the first 4 episodes.
All right. So that's the main bullet points.
Okay.
It's always those same things. Those are always the same things that happen.
Okay.
So anyway, just finishing up what always happens. In the 5th year, it's always the same 3 people who died. The festival happens, and then Tomatake, the guy we said before, the photographer, he always dies. He's the first one to die. They always find him with his throat clawed out by himself.
Yeah.
You don't know why. He just claws his own throat out. The second person to die is a character we didn't touch on. I think her name is Tanako. Tanako? She's some blonde-haired bimbo that's always with...
Right here.
I'll put it in post. She's always this blonde-haired bimbo that's always with the Tomatake, the guy with the
Very
camera.
mysterious.
Very mysterious.
You get zero information.
You
on
get
her
nothing about her.
later.
But every arc, like we said, the same things happen. She's always with him, and those 2 always die. And then to round it off, Riku ends up dying. She's the little girl with the blue hair. That right there usually signifies the end of an arc in the first season.
Yeah.
So now if you want to get... After all that stuff just happens... I know you guys taking notes here. After all that happens...
Test.
Now after you figure out that those are the bullet points that keep happening. I mean, you find that out early on after like the second arc. You're like, okay, it's the same shit that happens. And they address that later on in the show. They're like, all right, we know this for sure. It's exactly what we just said. So now if you want to get into the arcs of what happens, this is where it gets confusing.
Absolutely.
Now before we explain the arcs, I would like to say what I thought watching it for the first time. I remember I watched it and I saw the first arc. The first arc is only 3 or 4 episodes. Mm-hmm. And it ends, and I was like, oh shit, that was fucked, so now what? And then it cuts to the next arc, and I'm like, okay, is this like what happened like before, or like a continuation of the story? That's what I thought I had it down. That arc ends, and I'm like, that made no sense. Then the next arc starts. By the time I got to the third one, I was like, is this just like miniatures? I thought
that I was watching it, and that's when I texted you. I'm like, yo, dude, I'm like halfway done with the season. I'm like, is this just like not like linear story? I'm like, is this just like little mini episodes?
That's what I thought too. After a while, I was like, is this just mini episodes where like the
Like,
basic thing happens.
Nothing matters that happens like in each thing. And
it's just little episodes.
Its own stories.
Now, you don't get a clear-cut answer until, like, the last 2 episodes. But before we get into that, I would like to cover the different arcs. So if you want to get into the first arc, just to see how confusing this gets, and this might be a little bit spoiler, but like I said, you can't really spoil anything in the first season without talking about the second season, and we're not talking about the second season yet. This is just the first season. Mm-hmm. And like I said, if you watch just the first season, when I watched it a second time, I was like, wow, if you watch just the first season, that's pretty unsatisfying.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's nice going back and watching it because you pick up on, like, little things that, like...
Then you pick up a lot on little things. And one of the main things I would like to talk about, that when I watched it a second time, I was like, oh, fuck, that makes sense, was the right arm that went missing.
Oh, yeah.
Remember how they always talk about how that right arm went missing and no one could ever find it? And then the second season you find they bring that back up. I was like, oh, fuck, that makes sense. I completely I think when I watched it the first time, it didn't register to me. But anyway, going back into the first season, talking the first arc hits. I think it's like, what, 2 or 3 episodes?
It might be 4, I want to say. We have a quick spark note of the episodes here.
Just to see when the different arcs change.
Yeah, it's 4 episodes, because the next one's part 1.
Yeah. So the first arc is 4 episodes, which even if you just watch those first 4 episodes, those first 4 episodes are enough to just get you immediately invested.
Oh, absolutely.
And try to figure out. A lot happens. So like we said in the first episode, like, you find out about the damn war, and then Keiichi, the main boy, starts asking a lot of questions.
Nobody wants to tell him anything.
No one will tell him anything.
Whenever he brings up anything like that, they get super defensive, and they're like, yo, don't just...
Super suspicious. They're like, just fucking cut it.
Yeah, just stop.
So then he keeps asking questions, and he keeps trying to find shit out, and that's pissing the club off. When we said we'll call the main character group the club, and the club is getting all fucking weird. So then... what happens? That really what's the first point that drives him over the edge? Is it the ohagiri or whatever when they make him the food?
Oh, the meatballs.
Yeah. So what happens is he starts getting suspicious, and they don't like that. So 2 of the main characters pay him a visit. No, I lied. Oyashiri?
I don't know who you're
Ushiri, the cop.
Oh, the cop.
The cop. Great
detective.
The detective. Awesome character.
He's one of my favorites. He's boy. Right here.
Now you're adding a lot of work for me in post here, Dan. The cop shows up to the school and he's like, hey, listen, I need to ask you. He's like, I want to talk to the new kid. He wants to talk to the new kid.
And everybody's like super suspicious of that.
This is after the festival happens. So the festival happens, like we said, and the 2 characters die. The boy with the camera and the blonde-haired bimbo chick. Now, the main character had talked to them during the festival. So the detective shows up.
And he was just asking, like...
And he's like, hey, I want to talk to you in private.
Yeah.
During school. So the club sees this. They see him talking to the detective. No one likes this detective, by the way. He's hated. So he starts asking our main boy Keiichi questions. And he's just like, yeah, I don't know. I talked to...
He's like, I'm new here. I don't really...
Yeah, he's like, I'm new here. I did talk to those 2 guys, but whatever. And the cop's like, well, they're dead. And then Keiichi's like, holy fuck. And then the cop is like, oh, well, here's like my info. Keep in touch. And he like alludes that the murders might have to do with his friends at school, the club.
He's like, yeah, you better just keep an eye on them. Just... You never know.
So Keiichi comes back, and that's when he starts asking questions, and the club's getting suspicious.
Yeah, they start like asking him questions.
Yeah, and then Keiichi's playing phone tag with the cop, and the cop is releasing some details, and nothing's making sense. And this is when you start trying to put shit together. You're like, okay, yeah, maybe this, and then 2 of the main characters start acting fucking weird.
Weird's an understatement.
Yeah, they start acting really crazy. It's Mio and the girl with the green hair. And Reina, the girl with the red hair, the one who likes to dumpster dive. And they get like super weird about it, and they suspect him hardcore.
Whenever this is another thing that happens a lot. Whenever they get like weird,
you think about their eyes?
They do that like super, not hyper realistic, but like they give them like 100% facial expression where like they get like
super serious,
whacked out.
Yeah, and
like their pupils will grow real big.
Yeah,
you could just put it here.
Jesus, Dan. So that's basically what happens to those two. And then Raina starts spying on him. She finds out he's talking to the cops. They get suspicious. So then one night, the main boy stays home. Raina and Mio pay him a visit, and they're like, "We have a club activity for you. Eat this food, and let us know who made what, or what they're labeled or whatever."
Yeah, they're like, see if you could figure out who made which one. And it's like, okay.
It was just super fucking awkward. So he closed the door. He goes in the kitchen. He's like, holy shit. He knows they're spying on them, so it's really fucking weird. He goes to eat one, and there's a fucking needle in it. And he's like, what the fuck?
And he like throws it against the wall.
He throws it, and he starts fucking losing it. Now, this sets him over the edge and adds stress to him, which is big later on. We'll get into that. But it's like slowly driving him mad.
Yeah.
How crazy,
the next couple days, this was the main thing. He called off of school, so he wasn't in school. So the club's like, oh, okay, it's starting to get like actually suspicious now. They're like, well, where the fuck is he? Like, what is he doing?
So one of the main things that happens is this when she pays him a visit, Raina?
Yeah.
And she's like
that, like the day after.
Yeah, she's like, oh, you weren't in school, whatever.
Like, I brought, like, notes and shit for you.
Yeah, and he's like, get the fuck out of here. And then there's this amazing, amazing scene.
I go back and I watch it all the time.
Where this is when, like, it goes from... See, this is what... There's different elements in each arc. I guess looking back on it now, it goes, like, super serious to start off.
Yeah.
Then super whimsical, friendly, like laughter, and you're like, okay, whatever. Like, why is it so jolly? Then it starts to get serious, and then it gets overly fucked with an outrageous ending to the arc. So this is about the point where, like, it starts to get super serious, and she's like, oh, I heard you weren't there. I know you're talking to the cop, whatever.
Yeah. And he's like, just get out of here. Leave me alone.
And then
she's like pushing on the door.
He has the door locked, and she's like trying to fucking get in.
Not locked. He has like it's not a deadbolt. It's like the little chain lock. So
yeah,
like
the chain lock. So
the
door's
open,
creaked open,
and like she's like peeking in. She's like, hey, let me in.
And then she starts like freaking the fuck out, and she sticks her fingers in to try to get the.
Let me in.
And then he just slams the fucking door on her fingers. He loses his fucking mind. He's like, fuck you. And then, you want me to just add?
Yeah, like the clip here.
Yeah. And she's like,
please just open the door. Open the door.
And he's like, no, fuck you. And then, like, she finally gets free. And then that's it. Then.
The ending of that episode.
What, when she's just standing outside his window?
He goes upstairs and he, like, looks out his window. And she's just standing in his yard whispering something. But doesn't he, like, start whispering the same thing, too?
No, he was trying to read her lips, and she was saying, go Minasai, go Minasai, go Minasai. It was just her saying, I'm sorry, which is, like, a big thing you find out later. Well, that's not really a big thing. It's just a small thing.
Yeah, but it was still fucking weird, though.
It was weird as hell. So then one of my favorite things happens that's probably a staple throughout the whole show. He finally goes back to school, and...
You forgot one of the main characters.
I know, I did forget one of the main characters. One of the things he starts asking about... This is a main character, by the way. He was big later on. He starts asking questions about one of the people who disappeared during one of the festivals, one of the previous years.
I thought he just ran away. Did he disappear did he run away?
He was considered the sacrifice. Oh, okay. Well, no one knows what happens to him at that point, but they consider him the sacrifice. Because the aunt died, and then he ran away. So one of the previous years, one of the club members' brother, who was there the year before Keiichi showed up, his name was Satoshi. Humongous character later on. You don't really get much on him until the second season. But you find out that last year during the festival, he was one of the people who disappeared. And it's the blonde-haired chicks in their club brother. And he was on the baseball team. And it's a sore subject that really pushes people over the edge. But after Keiichi, the main boy, goes through all this, he goes back and he's like... He's going through the locker, and he finds Satoshi's baseball bat.
The baseball bat.
Oh,
You wouldn't have known it at that point, but that's his weapon of choice.
It's his weapon of choice. Everyone has a weapon of choice, and this baseball bat is fucking up there.
Every time it comes into the scene, you know shit's going down bad.
So then Keiichi's like, I'm using this as my main weapon. This is what I'm going to use to fend people off. So he starts going nuts.
He's practicing with the baseball bat, and every time somebody sees it, like he's outside the school just swinging with the baseball bat, and like people come up to him, he's like, yeah, I want to join the baseball team. But then, come to find out, everybody's like, oh yeah, you're acting real weird and stuff like that. And then they're like, this is exactly what Satoshi did before he went missing.
Yeah, so everyone starts freaking the fuck out because they're like, Keiichi is doing the same thing that the kid from last year was doing up until he disappeared.
Like, exact same thing.
Yeah, like he's just practicing his swings. He's being fucking weird to everybody.
He's not going to school.
Yeah, he's doing weird ass shit. So then, I guess just to round off this first arc.
Yeah, mind you, this is like the first 4
These
episodes.
are the first 4 episodes. Yeah, we're going kind of really in deep on these first 4 episodes.
This is exactly what we didn't want to do.
Yeah, this is I didn't want to go episode by episode, but like this is how good it is.
Yeah, like there's so much to cover.
There's a lot to cover. So I guess just to round it out, what ends up happening is
spoilers.
It's really not spoilers because
Four episodes.
Yeah, 4 episodes, and you're not really taking anything away from this. The 2 main characters we said, Mion and Reina, the blue-haired chick and the red-haired chick, basically break into Keiichi's house while his parents are away, and they try to inject him with something. But before any of that happens, he writes notes and he takes safeguards, and he's like,
yeah, he hides them behind the clock.
Yeah, there's like some shit that happens that I'll let you guys just watch it and you could take that into account. And he's like, there's this fucking drug and they tried to drug me, and they break into his house and then he overpowers them. He gets that fucking baseball bat and he just goes fucking signs on those bastards and just wails the fuck out of them.
Yeah, he fucking mutilates
them.
He
mutilates them. And then after
he runs away to the phone booth. That's what he does.
Well, after he mutilates them, a bunch of people, random-ass people show up to his house, and he's like, oh, fuck, I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
He runs away, goes to a random phone booth, calls up the detective, and he's like, yo, something's after me, and he's just going, he did get injected.
He said it was
Yashiro's curse.
Yeah.
He's like, he's after me. He did get injected. That's big. He got injected by this syringe. You don't find out what that is until way the fuck later
But he
on.
takes the syringe, and he writes a note, too, and he tapes it behind his clock.
Because before the detective showed up, those people were there first.
Yeah. I don't know why he did that, because they don't reference that in any other season.
It was basically those people covering it up. That was the whole point of that. Semantics, as you would say.
Semantics.
So that ends, and the main boy kills himself. So you're like, holy fuck.
He dies in the phone booth.
Yeah, you're like, holy fuck, we have 3 main characters from the club dead. What the fuck, how are they going to wrap this shit up? So then it goes to the next arc. And then all of a sudden, everything is fine again.
It's just a normal day at school. Everybody's in the club.
Yeah, and I think this episode is just like super lighthearted. Nothing crazy. And what the fuck? I'm trying to. What the fuck happens in this one? Is this the one with the blonde-haired bitch?
No, I think this is the one with the other green-haired chick.
All right, well, we're not gonna go exactly. So that was the first 4 episodes.
Yeah.
I would like to skim over these ones because I would like to eventually get into the second season tonight.
I'll tell you what. I've been thinking about this. How would you say a metaphor for this show?
Okay, go ahead. I'd like to hear this.
So if somebody comes up to you, they give you a puzzle that's half done, right?
Okay.
And they give you a bunch of puzzle pieces. And they're like, put this together. So you're like, okay. So you start putting pieces together, and then you're realizing a lot of the pieces don't fit. You have a lot of the wrong pieces. So you tell the guy, you're like, listen, can't do it. You can't put the puzzle together. He's like, okay. So he takes it, and he gives you a puzzle that looks very similar to that one, but it's a little bit different. And he gives you different pieces. And he's like, put this one together. So you get a little bit more pieces, but you're like, listen, still can't do it. Don't have all the pieces here. So he's like, okay. So he does it a 3rd time. So by this point, you're like, I already know what I'm in for. I'm not gonna be able to piece it together, but I'll still get a little bit more of this puzzle to fit into like what it's gonna look like at the end. By the 2nd season, the puzzle is like, I wouldn't even say 75% complete. It's like, it's getting there. It's very close. But the second half is basically the rest of the puzzle pieces that are missing from this whole picture. And by the end, you still don't even have all the pieces. You're at like 98%. And you're missing like very minor details of this picture.
Wow, look at that metaphor. That's basically the show.
Yeah.
That's
All right,
basically.
end
Yeah, there you go. Go watch it. But I guess, like, I know we just talked a shit ton about the first 4 episodes, and I guess we're just kind of like skim over the rest of the episodes. Basically, how the rest of the episodes work is, like I said, it's the same bullet points that happen every time. They have the festival. The same couple people die. Every year, there's the whole damn war. You learn about that. You just learn a little, like Dan said, you learn a little bit more.
They'll add like a new character or two.
Yeah, so
They're very necessary to the story.
But what they do is they try to twist the story so that you, like that metaphor, they're giving you wrong puzzle pieces. They're leading you to believe something that isn't true, but they're trying to make it seem like that is true. Mm-hmm. So you never really fucking know. And the whole point of the different arcs is to bring in different characters so that
help you understand what's going on.
But you never do fully understand. Like, I think the one arc you find out about the blonde-haired, the little blonde-haired girl. You find out that her parents, during the damn war, were one of the families that were for it. And the village ostracized them. Mm-hmm. And they're like, fuck them. And no one ever helped her because the villagers
No one talks to her. No one likes her.
Yeah, no one likes her.
Rightfully so. She's the worst character in the
I
show.
fucking hate her. But her brother, Satoshi's amazing. So because no one liked her and they were ostracized, that drove her brother especially and her crazy. The brother, you find out, Satoshi ended up killing the aunt. And then he ran away. You never really find out what happens to him. That drove the sister mad. Everyone tries to take care of her. She ends up going with a shitty uncle. That's like one whole arc. And then,
it usually involves the main character going crazy by the end of the arc.
yeah, everybody goes crazy and doing something really bad at least once. Then another arc, you find out about the green-haired girl. It takes all of the club members, and I think the whole first season is just doing something with one of the club members.
Yeah, basically, by the end of it, you get like their backstory, why they go crazy for that arc, and they introduce like another character that relates to them.
Yeah, so like the first arc, like we said, is the main boy. The second arc is the blonde-haired chick and her brother. The third arc is the green-haired girl, Mion, who's the daughter of one of the head families. You find out that she has an older sister that they cast away because she's a twin, and they didn't like those, but she ends up coming back. She goes fucking...
It's exactly the same as It's Mion and Sion.
Yeah, Mion and Sion, and they're two characters.
Very confusing.
It gets super confusing, which doesn't help.
Then they start dressing like each other, so then they start like switching places, and that's a big thing during that arc because you don't know who is who at what point.
Yeah, during that arc, you're like, holy fuck, like I don't even know who's who anymore. There's not the next one, but the arc after that is... It's not a different story, but it's the same story as the 2 arcs previous, but you find out what's actually happening. Like, that's why it gets confusing. So yeah, you find out about the greener girl, and then to round off the first season, this is like the main thing I'd like to talk about.
Spoiler territory? Or?
No spoiler territory here.
Okay.
No spoiler territory here. So like we said, each arc, you get the main club members, what their role is, their backstory, how they go crazy, and different characters.
Yeah. To sum it up.
We'll leave that up to you, just to keep it general. We'll leave that up to you to go and watch it and figure it out. But one of the main things that is somewhat satisfying, because up until this point, you're like, what the fuck is going on? And then it hits the last arc. And the last arc, I think, might be the longest. It's either one of the longest or one of the shorter ones. I can't remember exactly. I think it is one of the longer ones. It has to do with the red-haired girl, Reina. You find out, they mention her backstory about how she left the town, but then like had a psychological breakdown and came back.
Yeah.
So then, you fast forward to her. She's back in the village. You find out what the fuck is going on with her. Her dad's getting hustled by some chick who just pimps people out for money. All this shit. And then she ends up going crazy and kills her at the dump.
Oof.
That's not a place you want to die.
Getting dumped.
Yeah, sure, she's getting dumped, all right. So then
Stuffs her body in a fridge.
cuts her body up first, then stuffs her body in the fridge. So at this point, you're thinking, okay, here we go, another random arc of another random story, whatever. The club members end up finding out, and they're like, listen, we'll help you keep it a secret. What are friends for?
They're like,
I
we
thought
have
that
your
was
back.
I thought that was a little weird. She was like, because you find that was one.
Yeah,
of
they're like, we're not gonna turn you in, but we'll
help you so that you don't get caught.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little odd. As far as
What
all
are
the,
friends for?
as far as all the other random
I wish
shit,
I had friends that don't behind a body. Jesus.
I know, they're like, yeah, because Mion, the daughter of the head family, she's like, oh, we have a site, we'll just fucking hide it in the cave.
Yeah.
So they go and they do that, and then like it calms Raina down, and like she's okay again. Like she was starting to go crazy, but then like that calms her down and she's all right again. So then the arc keeps going on, and you find out that along the way, there's a hospital clinic. Like we said, you'll find this shit out as you go on watching it, but there's a clinic with a main doctor boy.
Doctor boy.
And you find out along the way that the blonde-haired bimbo that always dies every arc at the end of the 5th festival works as she's basically a nurse there. She's helping at the research
I like
clinic.
how you keep calling her a bimbo and she has nothing going for her. She is not a very attractive.
She's a
anime
blonde-haired bimbo.
woman. No, bimbo implies that they have like huge boobies.
I'm gonna keep calling her a bimbo. She's always like,
Put a picture of her. She looks sad all the time.
She looks sad and high.
That's what I'm saying. She looks like a druggie.
Well, she works at the research clinic with the boy.
I wouldn't trust her with my medicine.
She shows up here and there, and then like you come to find out she's researching something. You're not sure what the fuck she's researching, but it's the point of her like being there and stationed there. So at some point or another, she ends up handing off her research notes to Raina, the girl with the red hair. I'm not really too sure why Raina ends up.
Tablets.
Yeah, she has tablets. She's like, listen, here's everything I know. You can read it. It's the truth to what's going on. This is before the festival, by the way. So she's not dead yet.
You're like, oh shit, we're gonna finally get some information about like what is going on.
Yeah, like, so you're thinking like we're cutting it close to the end of the season here, so maybe we're about to get something. And then you just get hit with an overwhelming amount of information that you're not even sure whether you should even fucking believe it or not, but it like kind of explains what the fuck is going on.
I think it gives you more questions.
I think it does give you more questions than answers, because what happens is
Spoilers?
I don't know how you want to do this one, because would you even consider this spoilers at this point?
This is still first season shit.
This is I'm talking like the last couple episodes.
I don't know if it's spoilers or not. That's the thing. I don't know if it's true.
That's how confusing it is. This is a really confusing anime. So
maybe spoilers. Do like
okay, I'll do it. So here's a spoiler warning. So watch it.
Find out.
You watch at your own discretion. Because we're not even really sure if this is spoilers. Maybe I guess. The red-haired chick gets on the phone with the main boy, and she's like, listen, the festival's coming up. Everyone's lied to you. Here's what the notes say, and here's the truth. So you're like, oh, the truth. Maybe we'll finally get something. The whole fucking point of this show is the fact that Oyashiro does his curse every year after the festival, and like we said, 2 people die, 1 disappears. And they're like, well, why does that happen? And they consider this Oyashiro's curse. And the red-haired chick is like, it's not a god deity or anything like that. Here's what it actually is. It's a parasite that has infected the whole town of Himazawa. And it's only infected these people. And this parasite has come from the marsh. This big...
The one we are in right now.
Where all the bugs are. It's this giant swamp that resides in the town. And these parasites came from this swamp years ago, like years and years ago, like before World War II. And they have infected the whole town. And how the parasite works is, if you... Okay, so yeah, it's getting really confusing. How the parasite works is, if you leave the town, you start to act up. Nope, I'm already fucking it up.
Oh.
I'm already fucking it up. How the parasite works is... See, it's so confusing, you gotta watch it yourself. How the parasite works is, it will eventually send you into a fit of rage that will end up making you senile and crazy and kill people. So what the town would do is, the town heads, whenever someone would go crazy with this parasite, with this disease, they would torture them, chain them up, and just kill them off. And the town heads were like, okay, well, like, people are going crazy. Let's set up rules. No one can enter. No one can leave. As a safeguard.
Yeah, they didn't want anybody else getting this shit.
Yeah, they didn't want anyone else getting infected.
Very, very noble.
Well, it was very noble of them. And so they set up the rules. The villagers followed it. And over time, the parasite got conditioned to the environment. And from basically weeding out the people who went crazy with all these torture devices and keeping everyone locked in, the parasite adapted to the environment and just like settled down. And the town, to basically hold rule over these people and make sure to reinforce the rules, they're like, oh, this disease they're like, it's not a disease, it's the god Oyashira. And if you go crazy, that's his curse on you. And that was basically the town's way of reinforcing these rules. So you're listening to this and you're like, what the fuck?
But the way the parasite got there is from like...
Whoa! We didn't get there yet, friend. We didn't get there yet.
I don't even know if that's true or not.
We just don't let Dan get too ahead of himself here.
I'm getting anxious. I got the
I
parasite.
know, I'm kidding. Oh. So you find that out and then you're like, oh fuck, okay. So Raina, the red-haired chick, starts going crazy again.
Yikes. Oh, did you explain what happens when you go crazy?
So I guess they're like, so yeah, when you go senile, so like what I was saying before is when you go crazy, you go into a manic frenzy where you just start, you get paranoid and you think everyone's an enemy. So you just start going after them and brutally killing them. And then after doing that for so long, you just fucking lose it and you claw out your throat and die. And you're like, oh fuck.
The reason you claw out your throat is because it feels like there's maggots in your blood.
Yeah, you start just becoming fucking nuts.
So, like, it'll show them, and they'll be like...
It's basically the parasites.
They'll be like, scratching, and, like, they'll look down, and they'll see a bunch of, like, maggots coming out of their blood. Mind you, they show all this. Isn't censored.
Yeah, this is all... There's a lot of shit that happens that's not censored. So you find all that out, and you're like, is that what's happening? Because, like... They've been on this god deity Oyashira shit for a bit,
Yeah.
so like, are we just throwing that out the window now? Because it's pretty far-fetched. So then, the red-haired chick, she's like, I gotta go. And Keishi's like, what the fuck is that? Okay, sure, yeah, I'll believe it. He just believes everything. So then they somehow, I don't know why they end up back at the dam.
The dump.
The dump, I mean, yeah, the dam. And it's just Reina and Keiichi.
She was hiding out there. Because the people were after the diaries.
The notebooks.
The
Yeah,
notebooks.
there were people after the notebooks.
And so she ran. She went to the one place that she felt safe, which is, oddly enough, the fucking dump.
I love the dump.
I love the dump, too. She
I
has
like
that
her
cool-
little RV
the bus.
hideout. Yeah.
Like the
So Keiichi goes looking for her, yeah, because he finds out that she's hiding whatever. Like I said, you gotta watch it to fill in the blanks here. I know there's already a lot of blanks.
Huh.
So this is where it gets even more confusing. They're arguing, and in the middle of them arguing, she's like, I lied. It's not parasites, it's aliens. And you're like, aliens? And even the main character's like, this is my favorite, because he just brushes that over. He's like, okay, yeah, sure, I believe you. Aliens. And then they start arguing more, and then he's like, I don't give a fuck if it's aliens or parasites. He's like, I need to help you. And then you're like, No, well, I care if it's aliens or parasites. What the fuck?
Now, mind you, while they're arguing, she's like clawing at her arm. She has like the maggots coming out. So you're like, oh shit, like she's not looking too hot in the fucking dump.
So then I'm not really too sure what happens that she ends up at the school with everyone captured.
She has those syringes with her that she gives to the main character. I still don't know what's in those fucking syringes. Well, at that point, you don't know.
I'm not really too sure. Did she have syringes?
Yeah, she had I don't know if she said it was the antidote or not.
I think, I don't know what happened.
It gets confusing with all the timelines, though. That's the thing.
I don't know what ends up happening, but I think, I don't know. She ends up back at the school, your favorite place to go. And everyone there's being held hostage.
I think she thinks that the main character's against her.
Yeah.
That's why she went to the school and captured everybody, and she's tried to, like, draw him out.
He ends up in the school with her. I don't know. Everyone's captured, and basically, she basically goes, I have the whole school rigged with explosives. The cops show up. She starts negotiating with the cops. Oh, Yashiri. The main detective boy.
Who are you?
And they're negotiating back and forth, and then the whole time Keiichi's like, he ends up on the phone because Reina for some reason believes him that she's on his side, but he's really not. And then all the club members are there, and then he's like, we need to figure this out. So he starts distracting her, the cops distract her. They find the explosives, and the episode comes to an end where it's the main boy and Reina on top of the school. Now, this is like the end of the last episode, so you're like, what the fuck is going to happen?
Last episode
of the first season.
Yeah.
So then he gets Satoshi's bat, so you're already excited. You're like, all right, here we go. Whenever he gets the bat, something badass is going to happen. So he's up on the roof, and the redhead chick's on the roof, and she's in fucking sane. And they start battling it out. And then you're like, what the fuck is going to happen? And Riku, the girl with the blue hair, starts like acting weird. And she's like, maybe this is the time that it'll be different. And you're like, what the fuck is she talking about?
Yeah, she knows more than we do at this point.
Yeah, she's like, maybe this is it. This is the world where it'll all be different. We're finally...
She mentions that to them, though.
Yeah, we kind of skipped over a part where, like, it is kind of major spoiler. It's when they're like, oh, we gotta save Reina. And then he gets a huge flashback.
Yeah.
We'll leave it for them to watch.
There's one arc that we didn't touch on that something important happens.
Leave it for them to watch.
I don't know if you can.
Well, anyway, so the red-haired chick and then Keiichi start battling, and then he ends up beating her, and then she's like, he says some, like, soppy-ass shit that, like, brings her to her senses, and she's like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, maybe I can be saved. And then, like, it cuts to the girl with the blue hair, Riku, the little girl, and she's like, a miracle happened. We can do this. It's not this time.
There's, like, one major thing that they managed to change in this last arc that, like, literally had, like, a chain of events to happen where everything is being set up perfectly to, like, it's not the same this time. Like, shit is actually different in this last arc.
I wouldn't say too much shit. Are you talking about the doll?
That was kind of a big thing.
That's the second season.
No, that's the first season.
No, it's not.
Are you sure?
I just watched it.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's confusing.
They talk about it. They when it goes to Sion and she's like, "Oh yeah, if he had just."
No, yeah, it is the second season. You're right, because then the flashbacks start happening in the second season.
Yeah, but anyway, to end the first season off, the little girl's like, "Listen, it didn't happen this time, but next time I know like a miracle can happen." And you're like, "What do you mean next time?
Yeah.
What do you mean a different world?"
Yeah, we're like, how does she know that it's repeating every time?
Yeah, so like weird shit's happening.
Because nobody else fucking knows.
Yeah, so then it cuts another fucking world at the very end, and then it's like everything's back to normal, and she's like, this time I know we can do it. And you're like, what the fuck? We got parasites, we got aliens, we got different worlds? What the shit is this? And then that's where the whole first season leads off.
She's in the car.
That doesn't really matter. I went back and I watched that, and I was like,
Well, it confused the fuck out of me.
It did kind of confuse the fuck out of me because I don't even know when that's supposed to be taking place. In that timeline, I guess? I don't know. But that's the whole first season.
You get nothing.
You don't really get nothing. You get a baseline story of shit that just keeps happening over and over, and you're like, okay, sure. All I got was more questions than answers. So then you're like, well, I guess I gotta go to Kiss Anime to watch the fucking second season. And holy shit, do you start getting you get answers quick.
Oh, absolutely.
The first episode is phenomenal. Now, I think this is where, like, really need to put up spoiler warnings because this is like territory.
All your answers get, or all your questions get answered.
All your questions
All your answers get questioned.
All your questions get answered. I said it right.
You said it right.
I didn't mean to.
But, a little preface. I got done with the first season, and Mike's like, oh, here's the second season. I was very reluctant to watch the second season. It took a lot of willpower, because by that point, I'm like, I don't know if I could take the same storyline again for, like, the 8th time. I was like, listen, I know what's going to happen.
It does seem like a little bit like a Groundhog's Day type situation where you're like...
I was like, I know what's going to happen. I really don't feel like watching this. I'm like, I kind of want to just leave it there. And I'm like, I'll just force myself to watch it. I'll sit through it. Well, long and behold, it's when shit finally gets different.
If you do end up watching the first season and you do get mentally exhausted where you're like, oh, here we go again. Like, it's just like something different. The second season... Just watch it.
It picks up.
It picks up really fast. So yeah, this is definitely spoiler warning. And just to touch on what you said, to go back, when I did watch it the second time, I'm not gonna lie, the first season was a little tedious.
Yeah,
it was a little
starts
tedious.
To get old.
A little bit, because especially first time watching it it's not bad. It's good. It's a good anime. But I would say going back and watching it the second time, I was like, okay, I remember.
We get it.
A lot of the main shit that I remember. But you need to watch that first season, or you get nothing on the you'll just be confused, because the second season jumps right in. And I thought about it. I was like, what if you just watch the second season first? I thought about that going into the second season. I'm watching the episodes. I'm like, oh, no way.
Yeah, you would have no idea what any of the characters are, why they're going fucking crazy, who's going to die.
Yeah, what's happening, all the shit going on. So don't just go watch the second season, because you can't do it. Just get through the first season. I'm not saying it's bad, but it does get a little tedious toward the end. I would say there's 1 or 2 arcs in the first season, whatever, but I'll go back to talk on that because that's whatever. So I think the second season, I think we could, I don't want to say breeze over this pretty fast, but I think we could hit the main points and then really wrap this up in a nice bow, even though this show doesn't fucking do that at all.
No, it does not. I wouldn't say it doesn't deserve a bow, but it's like a mutilated body in a fridge.
Whoa, that happens.
It does.
So the second season is phenomenal, and it's really what brings the show together and makes it good. It's what made us want to do a podcast on it and to get other people to start watching it. Because, like I said, when I went back and watched it for the second time, and I was watching the first season, I was like, okay, I always remember all the badass shit that happens in the second season. So when I hit the second season, I was like, let's go, finally. So the second season starts off, and you have a lot of questions, and they jump right the fuck into it. They go to 30 years in the future of literally the last arc you just saw.
You see, that's why it was important, because we skipped one of the arcs. It was the blonde-haired chick's arc. Remember, they're on the bridge, and she's like, I just wish everybody would die. And then she kicks the main character.
The bridge, yeah.
And
Keiichi,
he falls.
yeah.
Then that gas explosion happens.
Oh, so yeah, another bullet point. I know, I say you got, make sure you guys are writing this down, and it'll be on the test.
This is the second, or it might be the third arc. I don't know which arc it is.
You find out that if you made it this far and you're somewhat paying attention, like we said, there's always 3 people that die in the 5th year. There's the boy with the camera, the blonde-haired bimbo who works at the clinic, and Riku, the little girl with the blue hair. Every time the girl with the blue hair, Riku, dies, there's a huge fucking volcanic gas eruption that wipes out the entire village and everyone dies. That is like the last bullet point. That I will say.
They don't touch upon it like a lot, but it does happen.
It's something that always happens. The last person to die is Riku, and then the volcanic gas eruption wipes out the entire village. That is something that always happens. And that's basically all the bullet points.
But in that specific arc, the main character is the only one to survive. He's the sole survivor. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that has anything to do with...
You got it. Just like we said, just watch the first season. But regardless, going back
to the second season.
Yeah, you go back to the second season. The first episode starts off real hot. You're 30 years into the future of literally the last arc you just saw in the first season. You have the old man detective, and one of another main character who we're not gonna really don't have to touch on him because it's one of those things where you have to see the show to understand how badass he is. But he comes back and it's basically two detectives and they're looking at like I said, this is 30 years after, and the gas eruption already fucked up the whole village. And they're walking through and they're just giving you everything that you had questions about. They're like, the town was wiped out, and they said it was a volcanic explosion, but that can't be true. The government covered something up.
The government's a big deal.
The government's a huge deal. They're like, the government covered it up, and they said it was parasites. And they talk about the parasite thing. They said it came from the marsh, but here's what people online say. They said that there was a UFO crash in the swamp years ago, and on that UFO, there were parasites not familiar with Earth, and they came from the swamp, and they infected the people, and that's what made them crazy. And then the aliens were like, oh fuck, we're fucking the villagers up. We need to help them. So the aliens came out, and they started helping the villagers as like a stopgap. It didn't cure them 100%, but it helped them whatever. And like the aliens became what known as Oyashiro, that deity. And the head families were housing the aliens just to keep them around, to keep the villagers safe. And that's what gave the villagers power. And then eventually the aliens died and time went on and people started forgetting about them. And people stopped giving a shit about the head families. So to reinstate power over the head families, to keep them in charge of all the villagers, they made up the whole Oyashiro curse. And that's why these mysterious deaths are happening every year after the festival.
If you told me that when I watched the first couple episodes, I'd be like, you're pulling this out of your ass. You're a liar.
You can't make this up. You can't make this up.
Like, it's
so out. That's the first episode of the second season. They just lay it the fuck down. Because at the end of the first season, you're like, what the hell are they talking about? And then the beginning of the second season, they just lay all this shit on you. And you're like, what?
Yeah, it went from like, oh yeah, there's these 5 friends that are just trying to survive.
That like go crazy. That are being targeted by a curse, to fucking aliens and parasites and
swamp.
And the swamp and like all this
gas explosions.
Yeah, government cover-ups and then like secret fucking plots by the head families of the village.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
So that's like what you get. So then like the arcs there are arcs in the second season, but they're way longer and there's not a lot of them and they're like super, super important. So then after you find all that out, I was just kind of like quickly rounding this out. So we're not on here too long rambling because all we're really doing is just talking about how crazy this is.
Yeah.
You come to find out that the blonde-haired...
Spoilers?
We already said there's...
Okay,
if you're listening to us talk about the second season, there's spoilers. So then you come to find out, and this is just paraphrasing. You find all this out.
There's a lot of stuff we're just glazing over just so we're not boring anybody. So
basically, just to summarize it, I'm trying to think of a way that I could explain this timeline-wise.
Concise.
Just so you could get the gist of it. Because like I said in the beginning, even if you hear us talk about this, it's still kind of confusing and crazy enough where you're like, you should just go watch it yourself.
If at this point you're still watching and what you said isn't enough spoilers, and you want to stop and go watch it so you don't get like everything ruined on you, absolutely go watch it. It's amazing.
This is the absolute point where if you're like, whatever, I'll watch spoilers.
Like that was minor spoilers.
Yeah, that shit is just minor. I'm not even sure if some of that shit is still true to this day. I still don't know, and I saw it twice.
So if this is like the defining point to like not ruining the anime, but like what actually happens and is going on. Like this, we definitely...
Yeah, we're like literally gonna spoon feed you the spoilers of the second season and then talk about how crazy it is. The whole point of us doing these is to get other people to watch.
So if like at this point, like you could still watch it and enjoy... Well, no, I'm not saying you can't watch it and enjoy it after this, but if you don't want to... If you still want to be shocked by the end of it, as if any of that wouldn't shock a normal human being, watch it like right now. Go pause the video, watch the entire seasons, and then come back and then play the video.
So, I think I'm gonna try my best here to explain it in a way where if someone else has seen it, now let's say you've seen it already, and you're like, oh well, I'll just continue watching, and you're confused. This would be a good time to watch. Yeah, we're confused too. But I'm trying to make sense of this.
Deep breath.
Deep breath. I'm getting all my thoughts together.
Don't get cursed.
Way back in the day, way before the war, World War II. They say the war. I'm assuming they mean World War II. There was the Himazawa village. And the people, to repent for their sins, would worship a god of the land, a deity of the land. And this deity would take their prayers and whatever and basically they would forgive man's sins. This deity is a small little girl.
Yeah.
Is a small little girl that was basically a deity of the land. They prayed to her, whatever. Then, over time, out of the marsh, of the swamp, it is never confirmed if it was actually aliens or not. It was never confirmed. It could be, it couldn't be. Regardless,
Semantics.
out of the swamp came a disease that infected only the people of that village. It drove them mad and senile. They would kill other people.
Senile?
Yeah, they went crazy. They would kill other people.
Okay.
They would kill other people.
I hear senile and I think of old people.
Maybe. It drove them nuts.
Okay.
They would go crazy, and they would start to kill other villagers. So, like I said, to combat this...
You don't want that. Not
You don't ever
village.
want that. So, to combat this, like I said before, the head villagers would take those people, torture them.
That part is true.
That part is true. That is what they would do. That's big. They would torture them and they would eventually kill them to stop them from killing other people. And like we said, that eventually adapted the disease and weeded out all the really infected people, I guess.
The shitty ones.
Now, people ended up finding out about this disease because when the war, like I said, I'm assuming World War II, they found out that soldiers only drafted from this village were going nuts and killing their own comrades.
Yeah.
So it minorly became researched and passed around through private doctors and investigators, and it became known as the Himazawa syndrome. Again, the head villagers attributed all of this to Oyashira, this deity, to try to scare the villagers, give it a reason, and obey their rules to keep them secluded to really water down this disease. Which it did. It did work. And then what happened was...
There's a lot of information.
There's a lot of information here.
But
so
they don't outright tell you this.
It's not that they
outright tell you this, but they don't It's not that they don't spoon feed it to you. They don't like give you paragraphs to read. They're like, you don't have to look up spark notes on the thing. It's like they just gradually give you this information while you're watching, like from time to time.
It's not one of those things where they try to hide it.
Yeah.
Well, they do kind of make it kind of difficult. But the second season does a way better job. Well, it does do the job of really making you go, oh, okay.
I know it sounds like a lot when we're trying to explain it, but they do like a very good way of doing it, and they have like representation. They show
Flashbacks.
what happened, and they give you like a good, nice, concise way of all this information.
And you have to keep in mind too,
It's not like boring or anything like that. It's
yeah,
like a
and
fucking
this
history
we're
test.
trying to explain what happens, the main plot point of the thing over the course of 24 episodes.
Yeah.
So you have to keep that in mind too. It's not like a quick 12-er. If it was 12 episodes, holy shit, I don't think it would have ever. It'd be rushed as shit. But yeah. So that's what happens in the town. The curse calms down. So then,
Calms down. It's like
yeah, how do I want to say? So then you come to find out. Now, I'm just going to explain the curse and what happens. I'm going to avoid the main plot because the main plot you can watch to figure out yourself. The whole doctor and everything like that. And you know what?
It's big shock value when you find out who's who.
Yeah, I would like to keep that at the end and leave the ending for people to watch.
Okay.
Because I think the whole this is like the background plot. The whole main plot is something completely fucking different.
Yeah.
And then like the ending, like I don't want to ruin that because the last couple episodes are so good.
They're the best episodes.
So yeah, so then you find out. So the curse or the disease calms down. People research it. They go. The dam construction site happens. You find out all about that. You're like, oh, okay. And then you come to find out that they're one of the three head families, the Furudu family, the family that has the little girl with the blue hair. This parasite or disease that infects these people, there's always one queen parasite, and they attribute it to a queen bee. And it basically releases pheromones out of the host's body that calms everyone else infected down. And if you stray too far away from the queen parasite or the main person,
you go fucking ballistic.
That's when the disease kicks back in and you go ballistic, you kill people, and then you claw your throat out. So you're like, oh fuck. You find out that the little girl with the blue hair, who's been the most secretive and everything up until this point,
you get like next to no. I don't even think she has an arc in the first season.
She doesn't.
You get zero. I wouldn't say zero information, but she's always the one that's like not by herself, but like the most secretive.
Yeah,
like you said.
You get some more of her shit, but you find out that her family line and she's the Shrine Maiden, and her family line, the Furudu family line, the girls in it are always whoever the latest girl is the host. So you find out that she's the host. Anyone strays too far away or leaves the village, goes fucking senile, goes crazy. Shit starts making sense.
Also, backtracking here, that's why when the red-haired chick left to go, like, moved out of the village, that's why she went nuts. So that starts to make sense. So that's kind of like a little quick back thing where they're like, oh, she left, she went nuts, but then she came back and she's like normal.
She's normal again
for the most part.
This is around the time. So up until this point, everything starts coming together, starts making sense. You find out about the research to the disease, the parasite. You find out about what's in the syringes. You find out about the people that are antagonizing them. You find out about this deity that shows up in the second season. This deity, it's like a little ghost girl that's always with the blue-haired girl, Riku. This is the deity I said in the beginning, way many years ago, that the people of the land worshipped, but they ended up forgetting about her. But she's still around, and she's with Riku. I'm not going to say anything about their relationship or whatever. I'll leave it up to them.
I'm okay with that.
I'll leave it up to them about why there's different arcs. There is a reason why there's different arcs, and it has to do with that deity and Riku, the Shrine Maiden. So like everything starts making sense, and then the last couple episodes, just to be vague without giving any spoilers, after you find all this information out, I want to say the last 2 or 3 episodes, you're basically like, you're caught up for the most part. You have a good understanding of what's going on. And it's just the last couple episodes, you're done being confused. You're done being... You understand everything. You have hindsight. You're like, okay, I get it. So what's going to happen? And it's basically a big showdown. There's a showdown at the end, believe it or not.
There's a lot of action.
There's a lot of action.
It's the best couple episodes.
It is the best couple episodes. And those episodes unfold, and you're just left in suspense the entire time. All the characters come together, and it's just basically a big fucking action-y war that happens that you're like, oh, fuck. And then it ends, and like I said, I don't want to talk about how it ends, because even if you really didn't see it yet or whatever.
If honestly, if we didn't convince you to watch it and you honestly want to go look up the list of episodes, you could read exactly what happens.
Yeah, that's true.
But I would say I would highly recommend watching
I think if you're someone watching this who's seen it already and was looking to like uncover more or whatever, I think we covered those points.
Yeah.
We covered the most confusing points. We don't really need to talk about the last 3 episodes because that's pretty cut and dry. Then there's a little thing at the last episode that doesn't make any fucking sense to me. If you're here if you're here and you're like, "Oh, I want to know what they think or figure out what happens at the very, very, very like last 2 minutes of the last episode."
No idea.
No fucking clue.
If you know what happens,
if you know what happens, leave a comment or
leave
something.
A comment and write.
Please let us know.
Because we have no fucking idea.
I have no idea. I could use my imagination. If you want to know what I really think, I think it was just like a little Easter egg, like, haha, here you go, here's this.
Yeah. So, what would you rate it?
Well, before I get into rating it,
okay,
let's talk about the good and the bad.
Okay.
Now listen, I know that was a lot, but there are
you
good...
did most of the talking for the last, 20 minutes.
There was a lot that went happen.
I mean, you did just watch it, so it's more fresh in your mind, but...
Alright, well, I want to know your good and bad. Go ahead. I did a lot of the talking. Go ahead.
My good and bad.
Do you want to give me the bad or the good first?
The bad.
Oof, okay. I hope you're not too harsh on it, but go ahead.
I mentioned it to you a couple days ago.
Okay.
And it pisses me off when, for some reason, anytime when they have to go somewhere, when they say a plot point, anything, when they mention a minor, it's not spoiler, but a minor, like, not inconvenience.
Whenever they explain something important.
Yeah, they'll go like, oh, it's at the school. And then the person they're talking to will go, the school? With a question mark. So you're like, okay, yeah, we get it. It's the fucking school. You don't have to tell me twice. Or like, oh, it's the curse. And they're like, the curse? Like, yes, it's the curse. We get it, it's the curse.
Now, I want to piggyback off of what you said. So this is all right. So this is something I think is bad also, and it's very similar to what you said. And you told me before I started the second season, and then like I started focusing on it. It's very similar to what you said. Something will happen that you're like, oh fuck, okay. They're like, oh my god, this is the drug that so and so. So then you're like, oh fuck, okay, like all right, cool. And then literally a minute later, they'll go to someone else and they'll be like, listen, I found out about this drug that does so-and-so. And then they'll have a fucking flashback to 3 fucking minutes ago of the scene that you just fucking saw. And they're like, oh, so-and-so about the drug. You're like, yeah, so-and-so about the drug. I just fucking saw it. I'm not a fucking toddler. I can remember 5 minutes ago. And they do that a lot. Like for example, the police station. They'll like he'll get like the detective will get a call and he'll be like, "What? So and so has died? I'll be right there." And then like he'll get in the car and he'll be talking to his other detective and he'll be like, "Yeah, listen, we need to go to this house because something happened." And then the other guy will go, "What happened?" And he'll go, "So and so has died." And the other guy will go, "What do you mean?" And then it'll cut to a flashback of him on the fucking phone. It's like, come on. So, like, okay, I get it, but it'll do that quite a bit. So yeah, I guess that's a bad, but...
There's that, the laughing. You want to put
The laughing. And listen, there's 2 reasons why it's annoying. Because it's mainly done by the little blonde-haired bitch. I don't like that character.
She sucks.
I don't like that character. And it's either Mion or Sion, one of the green-haired girls, they do it also.
Like, when they go crazy, they do this stupid fucking laugh.
They do that.
It's a little cringy.
It is a little cringy. Like I think like one of the first times you see it, it's
You're
like
like,
when
yeah,
they're
we
starting
get
to
it.
go crazy and you're like,
They're
oh, okay,
fucking
like for
crazy.
effect. But then like, I don't know, it starts to get too much and you're like, oh, it gets to be a joke.
So,
You're right, yeah, so that's kind of annoying.
honestly, those are really the only bad things I have to say about it.
I would say there's some pacing issues, but that's just getting through the arcs. One of the bad things too is a lot of the questions, like sometimes it's a little tough when they do give you the answers. You're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like we said, they do leave a lot of stuff up to you. I don't know if you would I guess it depends on the viewer if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I like to be given just fucking give me the answer. I don't want it. Don't leave it up to me. I want you to tell me.
Yeah, just cut and dry.
Like I said, like
another thing. This isn't a bad. This is actually. I'm gonna go to the positives.
okay, go to the positives. Go ahead.
I really like the animation style.
The animation style is good.
It's like it takes me back. It's like a nice. It's an older animation, but like it looks good. Like there's nothing I didn't like about that was in the show that I didn't like how it looked. I liked the gore was pristine. I loved it. I think it fit very nicely with the art style.
There's a lot of gore and blood, by the way.
There is.
A real lot. Uncensored.
So,
if that's your thing.
yeah.
Like we said, it's hard to fit this into a genre. Like if someone goes, what's the genre? I guess a good quick answer would be psychological horror. No,
Thriller?
I wouldn't even say horror. I would say, I guess psychological thriller, but
Yeah.
it's like science fictions. It's like it literally is everything. It's a little bit of everything, but more so thriller, psychological, I would say. Yeah.
So, what would you rate it?
What would I rate it? Given the fact that I like mostly all the characters, it does a good job giving their backstory. It has a sense of confusion and mystery, a nice amount of thriller, horror. It's long, and there's some spin-offs you can watch. The animation style is great. The music isn't too hot. Not a lot of music. The scores are kind
adds
of
to the suspense.
not too great. But yeah, the animation's great. It does look like a genuinely hand-drawn older anime where, it's good. It doesn't look like it gets cheap at times. Overall, if I'm looking for I wouldn't say, if you want a quick one to just watch whatever, this is not the one for you. This is a good one when you're bored or feeling like I'm in the anime mood. What should I watch? I want something good where you can just sit down and watch the episodes and be like, yes, this is everything I want. From beginning to end, I would rate this an 8.9.
I would say
An 8.7 to an 8.9. I don't want that to discourage you.
it's still high. It's very high.
That's high because, like I said, there are animes where, this is why I had to say this, because there are animes where, like, what's a good quick anime? I could sit down and binge and fucking love it, and I could give it a 9.5 because it was great. I sit down, binge it, whatever.
You're being reasonable, though.
This is one where it's a good fucking watch, where if someone told me this, I would watch it and be like, wow, they were fucking right. This was totally worth it. I'm glad they told me about it.
Yeah.
Like an 8.7, 8.9.
I would give it an 8.5. I agree with most of that. I think it's a very good anime. I would definitely give it a watch. I'm going to be sweet and concise about it.
A very good anime, give it a watch.
Absolutely.
I mean, to be fair, even though there were a lot of episodes, this is easily the longest we've talked about anime as far as any of our other podcasts.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to
there was a lot to talk about and a lot to cover. But yeah, I guess
I think that's basically it.
That's basically it. Like we said, if you haven't seen it, we've convinced you to see it. If you have seen it, maybe go watch it again. If you have seen it, maybe just watch the second season again.
Put what you think in the comments.
Wow, look at you.
Watch our other podcast.
Watch our other podcasts. Oh, Jesus Christ, that last one was rough.
Maybe don't watch the
Like
other
we
ones.
said, we might have gone a little above and beyond on this one, but after our last one, we felt like we really had to get
We
into
owed
it.
it to you, yeah.
So yeah, that's
Basically it.
when they cry.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in.
I'm gonna pee my fucking pants.
I'm gonna pee my pants too.
Into the internet that we must reach.